Hello everybody. This video is to be used in lieu of class this Friday. And first thing I want to remind you that we are going to be handing out the art supplies this Friday, or today if you're watching it on Friday, at the school from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So if you're able to make it, make sure you're there on time so we can get those supplies to you. And if you are unable to make it there for whatever reason, let me know and we'll work something out. So I'm going to give you, this is going to be a two-part video. So this is going to be the first video that you'll watch to get you started on the assignment. And then we'll have a second video later on as you get your art supplies in the week to continue this. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing an object. This assignment's called an object still life. So what we're going to be doing is picking one object, and for you, you'll pick one object from your home that you want to draw and paint. And then we're going to be painting that on a small piece of canvas. I believe it's a 5x7. So for me, I've decided to do a light bulb, and I want you to pick an object that's kind of fun. It's hard to see with the green screen. Something that's a little more interesting than just like a cube or kind of a basic shape, something that has a little bit more to it. And I like the different shapes that are in the light bulb, so I'm picking this and the way that the light's coming off of it. So that's kind of a fun thing. So this is the object that I'm going to be drawing for the demo, but for you, you can pick whatever object you want to draw at your house that you can put in front of you. For some of you, it might be easier to place the object, get the lighting the way you want it, take a picture, and then draw based off the picture. And for others, you might be able to set it up and then draw from plain observation. In both cases, what we're looking for is observing the shapes, not looking at the object as the object itself. So not looking at this light bulb as a light bulb, but looking at the tiny shapes that make up the light bulb. And the combination of those will create your piece. So let me show you an example. This is from several years ago. This is an up-close picture of a light bulb, a painting that I have done already. And it's kind of fun because you can see the details, the filament, the bulb, and then the reflections of the light. So something like this is what our end product is going to be like. Okay, so here we have our artboard. I, like you, have limited supplies, so for this demo, I'm using a piece of paper, but you can do this directly on your canvas, or you can do a practice on a piece of paper like I'm doing. And I also don't have all the supplies that I would like, so right now I'm going to be using a charcoal pencil, and you don't necessarily need to use charcoal, and we don't have that in the supplies we're distributing, so you can use a pencil. So I have my charcoal pencil and a blending stump and this moleskin cloth that it helps for shading. So initially, and for this, I'm going to, and you'll do the same, you want to observe your shape and look at some of the details that you're seeing. Here, let me center this a little bit better with the camera. So like I have my light bulb on my paper itself. A couple things to note are the shadow of the light bulb. I'm observing that. I'm looking at the different shapes of the filament within the bulb itself. I'm looking at the light reflections on the bulb. And then, the reflection on the brass section here. You're seeing the little highlights. I could alter this if I wanted to make the lighting more dramatic, possibly. Let me bring my light down. See, I like that. I'm liking that a little bit more. And I don't think it's showing up on screen as much, or as, the shadows I don't think is as deep on the screen as I'm seeing. but I'm liking the look of that. And so rather than doing a complete drawing like we did earlier in the year with the drawing class, I'm going to look at this as just general shapes, because a lot of the details are going to come from the paint that we're adding later. So this is really just to get kind of the initial shape. So this is your step one. So first thing I'm going to start with is I'm seeing this black shape there. And I'm observing, seeing the brass. It's kind of coming at an angle. There's a little bump there, and it goes in. Another little bump. And I'm looking at the shape of the bulb itself. It's kind of a loose shape. I'm seeing that middle piece that's, actually I'm seeing part of the brass reflected on the inside here, and then that kind of clear piece coming up. And it goes out. And these little details that you normally, you see a light bulb and people think it's, something like that, and then it just goes like that. But there's actually a lot more going on. That's kind of fun. Then I'm going to map out, I'm seeing kind of a darker part of my reflection here. There's obviously the light reflected there. That's coming in. The more, you don't need it to be super detailed, since it's not just a drawing, it's going to be a painting, but the more areas you're able to kind of map out, the easier it'll be when we get to the painting. For example, like right here, the one thing I'm observing is this is actually, I'm probably going to need to alter this. This is longer here than I have here. So really it probably ends there and has lines going up like that. So if I could kind of lift, and it's harder with the charcoal. So if you have an eraser, this will be a little bit easier for you. Let me see if I can pull some of that up. But then I'm seeing some shadow here, so I'm going to kind of some of that in. I'm seeing the cast shadow of the bulb, and it actually doesn't, there's two. There's one that comes around, that's the shape of the bulb itself, but then there's also a darker one. And if you want to smooth things out a little bit, it's called a blending stump. If you have pencil, you can just use your finger, mapping out some of these shadow areas. Obviously, this is in the shadow. And this is darker. So, and this was, I don't know how effective this was. This is kind of a quick tutorial, but this is kind of what I'm looking for. So an initial sketch of your object. And that's part one. And then in our next video, we'll be going over the painting of that sketch. So as I mentioned before, if you happen to have your art supplies and you've picked them up at the school, you can go ahead and draw whatever object you're doing directly onto your canvas. If you are unable to, or like a couple of students that are outside of the US right now, you can go ahead and use what you have. You can use a piece of paper or whatever's available to you. Pick your object and make the sketch of that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me to my email. And as I mentioned before, I will have the Zoom chat open all day on Friday. So if you have specific questions, you have access to me, but we are not formally holding class because I want to give you time to start on this project.